This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
So the question is, why is it called Pesach Sheni? Sheni means the second one. Why is it called the second one? Okay, maybe you'll say it's the second Pesach of the year. The first one is a Nisan, the second one is a Iyar. Why is it called Sheni? So we have two explanations why it's called Pesach Sheni. The first explanation, if you look at number 6, is from the Matnas Kahuna. Matnas Kahuna was written by Rabbi Yisachar ber HaKohen ben Naphtali. He was born in Szczebrzeszyn, Poland, and he passed away, he moved to Hebron, and he passed away in the year 1590. Okay, one of the early Achronim. He wrote a commentary on the entire Medrash Rabbah. So look what he says. Why is it called Pesach Sheni? Pesach Sheni, k'de'isa b'parshas b'haloischa, v'nikra katan. Why is it called Pesach Katan? Al she'eno chamor k'may Pesach Rishon. Because it's not so chamor like Pesach Rishon. In other words, it's secondary in importance. It's not as important as Pesach Rishon. It is of secondary importance. However, a fascinating explanation for why it's called Pesach Sheni is given by the Sefer HaToidah, Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov, who says, what month of the year is this Pesach in? What month of the year is it? Nisan? Iyar. The second month. Pesach Sheni. The Pesach of the second month. A new explanation. The reason why it's called Pesach Sheni, it's the Pesach of the second month of the year. Yom Zeh Nikra Pesach Sheni, Al Shem HaPesach HaKarev B'Chodesh HaSheni, because it's the Pesach of the second month of the year. Fine. Some people, they have a custom of eating matzah. It's brought down in number 8, from the Sefer HaToidah, also in many Svarim, the Shas Chubas Rivavos Ephraim brings down, people have a minhag to eat matzah on Pesach Sheni. He writes, Yeshnogim Lechal B'Yom Zeh Matzah, Shenishara mi Pesach. Many people eat matzah that was left over from Pesach. Lezecher karban ha-Pesach shenechal ala matzos, to commemorate the karban Pesach. Karban Pesach is eaten with matzah. Should a person have this minhag? Is this a correct minhag? Who has a custom of doing? Sometimes you say some people have the minhag. Which people? Ashkenazim, Sfardim, Hasidim. Whose minhag is this? So the Rivavos Ephraim is Rav Grumblat, formerly of Memphis, Tennessee. Now he moved recently to Eretz Yisrael. He was in constant correspondence with Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Reb Chaim Kanievsky is one of the Gedolei Hadar, the son of the Stipler. I've written a number of times to him. Anyone can write a letter to him. He'll respond to you. He'll write back to you. So Rivavos Ephraim writes to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He says, Nishalti miyadidi harav Nechemia Kibbel. I asked my friend Reb Nechemia Kibbel, Me'ayin haminhag, where does the custom come from? Sha'oich le'matzah b'Pesach Sheni, that you eat matzah on Pesach Sheni. So he says, the Rivavos Ephraim says, V'hinei yedidi hagoyin ches kuf. Anyone know who ches kuf stands for? Reb Chaim Kanievsky. My friend Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Kasavli, zeh minhag chasidim. Where does the custom come from to eat matzah? It's a chasidish minhag. Okay? So if you're chasidish, that's a minhag of chasidim. Otherwise, the Etzleinu Einah, Chaim Kanievsky says he doesn't do it. He doesn't. Fine.
What's the big deal of that doing? It's just a simon that you remember. I mean, today, since nobody, you don't bring a carbon Pesach, so it's a simon.
Look, everyone has...
I think most people actually do. If you remember, they do eat matzah. Whether you're
most people have Hasidic blood in them, right?
I do so.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So now here's the question. Yeah.
You mentioned here number 8.
Yeah.
They eat the matzah that left from Pesach.
Yeah.
They said Lezecher Korban Pesach.
Right.
But at the end of the Haggadah, we already ate something Lezecher Korban Pesach, right? Or whatever was that?
Good. The Korech.
Torah.
Zecher L'Mikdash Kehillel. So you already ate something. Yeah, I don't know why he says that they eat it Zecher to Karban Pesach of the first Pesach. I would have said they eat it on Pesach Sheni, because in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, many people would bring the Karban Pesach on Pesach Sheni, and they would eat it with matzah. So this commemorates the matzah that they ate with the Pesach Sheni. I'm not sure why he says it like that. Okay, so here's a big question. What if, Sukkah's time, and you go into your garage, you look for the sukkah, sukkah's not there. Sukkah's not there. It's the day before Sukkot, the Sukkah is missing. You don't have a Sukkah on Sukkot. So do we say, oh, you missed that on Sukkot. Don't worry about it. On the 15th day of Cheshvan, you'll make another Sukkah and you'll sit in the Sukkah. Or let's say, you bought a lulav of an esrog, and, what once happened in my family, someone dropped the esrog on the floor and the pitim fell off. No esrog. The esrog is a puzzle. Don't worry, you'll do it. You have a makeup day. You'll do it on the 15th day of Cheshvan. Or if you forgot to eat cheesecake on Shavuos, so a month later you'll have another. There are no makeups. There are no makeups in the Torah. If you forgot to do a mitzvah, so it's your loss. Why, when it comes to Pesach, has the Torah given you a makeup date? That if you miss the first Pesach, don't worry, 30 days later, you'll just do it again. You'll do it another, you'll make up. Well, why? This is the only mitzvah that we find in the Torah, that if you didn't do it properly the first time, you have a makeup day. Why is that? Good question? Good question. So, none of the Rishonim discuss this. Not discussed by any of the early authorities. However, Rav Yaakov Emden wrote a fantastic siddur, very well-known siddur. Chassam Sofer was a big fan of Rav Yaakov Emden, right? What did Chassam Sofer say? That Rav Yaakov Emden, he was a prophet. He was a Navi, right? He said he was a Navi. So, we're going to learn some Nevuah from Rav Yaakov Emden, even though he lived only a few hundred years ago. He tells us that something was revealed to him from Shamayim, and he's going to tell us what it is. Okay, look at number 10. V'tam Pesach Sheni. The reason for the Pesach Sheni, Shehukva be'ir, that was established in Iyar. Gilu li min hashamayim. It has been revealed to me from heaven. Listen to this. Rav Yaakov Emden is saying that you want to know the reason for Pesach Sheni? It was revealed to him from the heavens. Listen to this. The pasuk says, anybody know, how many years did the Jewish people eat the mun for in the desert?
39 years.
What?
39 years.
39 years. So the pasuk says they ate the mun, Arba'im Shana, right? 40 years. 40 years. So the question the Gemara asks is, what do you mean 40 years? When did the mun begin to fall? The mun began to fall on the 15th day of Iyar. And it stopped almost 40 years later on the 15th day of Nisan. So that means it fell basically 39 years minus 1 month. From the first Pesach till the first Pesach Sheni, those 30 days the mun didn't fall. The mun began to fall on Tesvav Iyar. So how could the Torah say the mun fell for 40 years? It didn't fall for 40 years. It fell for 39 years and 11 months. That's what the Gemara asks. You know what the Gemara answers? That the matzah, right? When the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, what did they take out of Mitzrayim with them? Any food? Ragalach, oranges, what did they take it with them? Matzah, right? What did the matzah taste like? Says the Gemara, the matzah that they took out of Mitzrayim tasted like mun. So even though the mun didn't fall until the 15th day of Iyar, the matzah they took out of Mitzrayim for those 30 days, it lasted 30 days and it tasted like mun. So in essence, they really ate mun for 40 years.
But they said that the mun had no taste unless you wanted to have certain taste of something.
Right, and it tasted whatever you wanted it to taste like.
Good question. On the other hand, it does say that the man, v'hu tamar kitzapichas b'dvash, it was like a wafer dipped in honey. So it could be that it had some type of basic taste, and to enhance it, your thoughts would enhance the taste. So I can't tell you exactly what it means that the matzah tasted like mun, but that's what it says. Okay? So the matzah tasted like mun. So that means in essence they ate mun for 40 years. Question. The matzah the Jewish people took out of Mitzrayim, how long did it last for? 30 days. From when? From Pesach until Pesach Sheni. So that means, says Rabbi Yaakov Emden, Yitzias Mitzrayim sort of was nimshach, it continued for 30 days. Therefore, Hashem said, if you're not going to bring the Karm Pesach on Tesvav Nisan, we'll allow you to bring it up to Tesvav Iyar. Why? Because the Exodus, the Yitzias Mitzrayim, is continuing for 30 days. Why? Because the matzah is still lasting for 30 days. Look at Rabbi Yaakov Emden, he says, V'tam Pesach Sheni shehukva b'Iyar, the reason why Pesach Sheni was established in Iyar, Gilu li min hashamayim, it was revealed to me from the heavens. L'fi shaboy kol sacharara shahitziu mi Mitzrayim. On that day, on Pesach Sheni, the matzah that they took out of Mitzrayim was finished. It did last for 30 days, but up to a certain point they didn't have any more. Skip the parentheses. L'fikach, therefore, ad kan nimshach zman, Nes Yitzias Mitzrayim b'achilas matzah. Therefore, the Exodus, the leaving of Mitzrayim, sort of lasted for 30 days. V'lochein b'Pesach Sheni, therefore Pesach Sheni, matzah v'chametz imay b'vayis. You have matzah and chametz at the same time. Why? Why in Pesach Sheni do you have matzah and chametz at the same time? To commemorate the fact that the matzah of leaving Mitzrayim lasted, and the man began to fall on that very same day. So on that day, the first year they left Mitzrayim, they had matzah, and they had man, chametz and matzah together. The man was chametz, the matzah was matzah. So to commemorate that, we have Pesach Sheni, where we eat matzah and we eat chametz. That's what Rabbi Yaakov Emden says. Look what he likes his pshat so much. Harei davar baru lefanecha. This is very clear. B'mash lo yamar b'adam davar me'olam. No one in history ever said this pshat. So he's the innovator. This is his novel interpretation. You know why we have Pesach Sheni? The matzah they took out of Mitzrayim lasted for 30 days. Okay, very good. That is the explanation of Rav Yaakov Emden. Chassam Sofer gives a different explanation. Chassam Sofer says that, is there any connection at all? What do the Jewish people eat for the 40 years in the Midbar? What do they eat? Man. Why do they have to eat man? Why couldn't Hashem send them meat? He did one time. Give them something natural. Why did it have to be a supernatural food?
Didn't they have the slav and all that stuff?
Yeah, they had temporarily. One night they had a special steak dinner. They had some bird, they had some flesh, but other than that, they didn't really have. All they ate was man. Anybody know what man looked like? What did man look like? Nothing. It was clear. Most of the enjoyment of food. If let's say you come home for supper and your wife said, "I have a wonderful dinner for you. I have a steak dinner with French fries, right? Delicious dinner." So she puts it in front of you. The only thing is, she tells you, "I poured some invisible powder on it. You can't see it, but you could eat it. You could feel it." So you're cutting it with your knife. You're putting it in your mouth. You're going to enjoy it? Very little. Most of the enjoyment of food is the way the way it looks. If you can't see it, you get very little enjoyment out of it, right? Very little enjoyment. Also, most of the enjoyment of food is smell. If you have a stuffed nose, you could be eating the most delicious food. It's not so good, right?
That's what it tastes.
So the man, right? What do we say about the man? Whatever you imagined it tasted like, that's what it tasted like. Okay, so you would think the man was delicious. So why does the Torah say the man was a vaya'ancha vayarivecha? God afflicted us with the man. I thought the man was delicious. No, it was an affliction. It was torture. The man was torture. You know why the man was torture? It didn't look like anything, and it didn't have any color. So it's very nice. You could dream up any taste in the world, but it had no appearance. It didn't have any...
You just said it. It says, right? First you make you hungry, then no matter what's in front of you, you're going to just grab it.
Vayancha vayarivecha. He tortured you, and he made you hungry. Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter. Whatever's in there, you eat.
So the man, although it may have tasted good, it was a form of affliction. Okay. Now why? Why did Hashem do this? So the Chassam Sofer, a common theme in the writings of the Chassam Sofer, is the more you guard your physical eyes from looking at things you're not supposed to, the more you keep your eyes pure, the more every human being has a set of physical eyes and spiritual eyes. Your spiritual eyes are what allows you to understand the concepts of the Torah. Okay? The more you protect your physical eyes and you guard it and you keep them pure, the more your spiritual eyes are able to understand the concepts of the Torah. Therefore, the Chassam Sofer says, the man, you know what the purpose of the man was? To give them absolutely no physical seeing of food, which would allow them to strengthen themselves to understand the Torah. That's why the man was an introduction to receiving the Torah. Right? What do we say in the Dayenu? Ilu hechilanu es haman, right? V'lo kervanu l'fnei har Sinai. The man was a direct prelude and introduction to Kabbalas HaTorah. The man sort of prepared us by not eating in a regular physical way, by sort of, completely negating our physical sense of sight. That allowed our spiritual eyes to understand the Torah. Fine. Anybody know what day the man began to fall? Pesach Sheni. Basically Pesach Sheni. So what does that mean, the Chassam Sofer says? If Pesach Sheni is the time that the man started to fall, that means Pesach Sheni is the time where we first had our first preparation to receive the Torah. That's why this day is like a quasi-Yom Tov. It's the first step of the holiness of the Jewish people. The highest level was Kabbalas HaTorah. The highest level was receiving the Torah. But the level that allowed us to get to receiving the Torah was the man, and the man fell on Tesvav Iyar. So that's another reason why this day was chosen as somewhat of a Yom Tif, because that was like the initiation of the holiness of the Jewish people. That's what the Chassam Sofer says. So far, it's the day that the matzah stopped. It's the day that the man started to fall. Okay? Very interesting. Okay, let's continue. Sforno says an incredible concept that not everybody agrees with, a very innovative idea, that had it not been for the Chet HaEgel, had it not been for the sin of the golden calf, we would not have needed to make a Mishkan. We wouldn't have needed a Mishkan. Why not? Because Hashem told Klal Yisrael before the Chet HaEgel, I will put my Shechina. What's the purpose of the Mishkan? The Mishkan is it's like a big shul for Klal Yisrael. It's the place where Hashem dwells the Shechina. He develops His divine presence. Had it not been for the Chet HaEgel, we would not have needed a Mishkan for Hashem to dwell in. Hashem would have dwelt His Shechina on every individual. Okay? So we wouldn't have needed a Mishkan. Every individual would have been worthy of attaining the divine presence of the Ribbon Shalom. It was only after the Chet HaEgel. What did Hashem say after the Chet HaEgel? Klal Yisrael, you go on your merry way. I have nothing to do with you. Hashem committed that He's not going to dwell His Shechina among the Jewish people at all. Not individual, not at Tzibor, not even in the Mishkan. So Moshe Rabbeinu davened to Hashem, and he said, Hashem, at least do this much. At least allow Klal Yisrael to make a Mishkan and dwell in the Mishkan.
If they wouldn't have a Mishkan, they wouldn't have the Korbanot. How they would start with the Korbanot?
Excellent. I'm going to come back to that, because as Sforno says another concept, that when Mashiach comes, we're not going to need a Beis HaMikdash. Klal Yisrael will be on the level of the Jewish people before the sin of the Egel, and Hashem will dwell His Shechina on every individual, even without a Beis HaMikdash. But what do you mean? We know there's going to be a Beis HaMikdash. We know this, Yechezkel HaNavi talks about the third Beis HaMikdash. The answer is we're not going to need a Beis HaMikdash for Hashem's Shechina. We'll need it to bring karbanos. So when the Sforno says we wouldn't need a Mishkan, we would need it to bring karbanos. But in terms of a resting place for the Shechina, we would not need. We wouldn't need the Mishkan. The Mishkan would only serve a purpose of we bring sacrifices there. But in terms of having a place for Hashem to dwell His Shechina, we would not need the Mishkan before the Chet HaEgel. The Mishkan is only a result of the Chet HaEgel.
Yeah, but if they make the Korbanot and there is no Shechina, because
apparently you wouldn't have needed the Shechina to be there for the Karbanos to be successful. So what does that mean? By the way, the Sforno says another point. Had it not been for the Chet HaEgel, Klal Yisrael never would have been commanded to eat only kosher food. Klal Yisrael would have been on such a high level that they could attain being close to Hashem even by eating non-kosher food. It was only after the sin of the golden calf, where we declined so greatly, that it was necessary for us to purify ourselves by only eating kosher food. Had it not been for the sin of the golden calf, the Sforno says, there would have been no command only to eat kosher.
But then wasn't the Torah ready? They were keeping the Torah ready before even the Torah was given. We had the laws of kashrus. They were keeping already kosher.
Yeah.
Even in Mitzrayim, they were keeping.
And certainly the Avos were, right?
The Avos were certainly for keeping.
Well, maybe according to the Sforno, maybe that wasn't one of the mitzvahs. I don't know. Yeah. But it could be when he says they wouldn't have had it. It could be he means they wouldn't have needed kosher to bring the Shechina. Maybe they would have needed it for other reasons. I'm not sure. They would have needed.
With Avram, when the Malachim came, he didn't feed them. He gave them
the milk, and
then later on he gave them the meat.
Right.
He didn't give them at the same time. It doesn't say that he gave them the.
I hear. Yeah.
You said that the bun is chametz. Now, technically, that means that for the next 38 years, what do they do on Pesach time? If they're not supposed to have chametz in their possession.
It maybe didn't fall during Pesach. I don't know.
they got kosher Pesach.
Good question. I don't know.
They got shmurim on.
There's a whole discussion. What bracha did they make on the man? So some say they made hamotzi lechem min hashamayim. Hamotzi lechem min hashamayim. Good question. I never thought about that. Okay. Says the Meshech Chachma. Meshech Chachma was the Meir Simcha of Dvinsk. Somebody told me that, how big was the city of Dvinsk? If you're riding on horse and buggy and you start saying Ashrei, by the time you got to Pesach Sheni, you'd already be out of the city. That's how big it was. You start Ashrei at the beginning of the city, by the time you get to Pesach Sheni, the city would be finished.
It's not even a village.
A very small city. Meir Simcha was one of the towering Gedolim about 100 years ago. He wants to understand, why was it that before the sin of the Egel, Hashem would dwell on every single individual, and after the sin of the Egel, no, we need a Mishkan. You know why? Says Rabbi Meir Simcha, that's because before the sin of the Egel, every individual had the status of a tzibor, of a congregation. If every individual had the status of a congregation, that means every individual could bring down the divine presence. So Meir Simcha wants to know, when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai to get the Torah, did Hashem tell him the laws of Pesach Sheni, that if people are impure and they can't bring the Karban Pesach, they have a makeup day? Hashem never told him those laws. It was only after the sin of the Chet HaEgel, that a few people were unable to be tahar for Pesach Rishon, and they asked Moshe Rabbeinu, what should we do? And Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'll ask Hashem. Then the din of Pesach Sheni was nischadesh, it was invented. Why did it have to be invented? Why wasn't it in the original plan? So Meir Simcha says, because originally, before the sin of the Chet HaEgel, every individual was able to bring down Hashem's presence just like a full congregation. What's the halacha if the entire congregation is tamei on Pesach Rishon? Do they bring Pesach Sheni? No. They bring Pesach Rishon betuma. Pesach Sheni is only a makeup for an individual who happens to be tamei. He pushes it off till later. But let's say the whole tzibor is tamei. We say tuma hutra b'tzibor. That means if the whole tzibor is tamei, the tzibor brings it on Pesach Rishon. Question: if an individual violates an avera that you're liable for kares for, right? An individual could incur a kares penalty, right? But what if all of Klal Yisrael does a sin where they're liable to get kares? Are they chayiv kares? Are they going to get punished with kares? No. We say only a yachid could be nechras. The whole tzibor can't be nechras. What's the reason why we allow you to push off from Pesach Rishon to Pesach Sheni? Because if you don't, what's the punishment of somebody who doesn't bring a Karban Pesach? Kares. It's one of the only mitzvahs that you're commanded to do, that if you don't do it, you're chayiv kares. You don't put on tzitzis, you're not chayiv kares. You don't put on tefillin, you're not chayiv kares. Every other positive command, if you don't do, you're not chayiv kares. If you don't bring the Karban Pesach, you're chayiv kares. So therefore, we say you can make it up. But before the Chet HaEgel, every individual was what? Like a tzibor. If every individual is like a tzibor can never incur a kares penalty. If it can't incur a kares penalty, if the whole tzibor is tamei, then the whole tzibor does it on Pesach Rishon. Before the sin of the Egel, it wasn't necessary to make Pesach Sheni, because if an individual is tamei, he has the status of a tzibor that's tamei, and he'll just do Pesach Rishon even though he's tamei. Okay? It was only after the sin of the Egel where an individual is an individual, and if he's tamei, so he's going to be chayiv kares. So then we have to make a makeup day for him. Let's read this inside in number 16. Okay? This is Meir Simcha. Hadulay nemar parshas Pesach Sheni b'matan Torah. The reason why we never said Pesach Sheni when the Torah was given, the Sinai, nira it appears. According to that which is explained in the Medrash, Uve Gemara Avodah Zarah Parakama, in the first parak of Avodah Zarah, Ubeyichod Harbe Ledaber B'zeh HaRabavad Yisifurno. The Sforno speaks about this at length. The Sifra, the Lefnei Matan Torah, before the Torah was given. Im Hayu Shoimrim Tsurasam, if Klal Yisrael would have preserved their image, their level, Lo Hayu Tzrichim L'Makam Mugbal Mukdash L'Shma. You would not have needed a place to say Hashem's Shechina is in this place. Asher bo yisachdu v'yispalalu kol ha'knesiyah ha'yisraelis. That what is the purpose of the Mishkan? The purpose of the Mishkan is for the collective tefillos of Klal Yisrael to be gathered and organized and collected in that area. Rather, b'chol ha'makom asher azkir hashemi, wherever you mention the name of Hashem, Ava Yelecha, I will come to you, Hashem says. I will come to you. So before the Chet HaEgel, before the sin of the golden calf, every individual was like an entire congregation. Skip down a little bit. About 2/3 of the way down, the last word on the line is Uvesifra. Take a look at that. Uvesifra uvemechota. And in the Sifra and the Mechota, Mekaymois ein mispar, in many, many places, what does it say? V'nichrusa hanefesh. The soul will be cut off, which we darshan means v'loy hatzibor, that an individual could get kares, but not an entire congregation. She'ein sibor nechrasim. An entire congregation can never be cut off. Okay, skip a line. The kivan shekodem ha'egal achar matan Torah. Since before the sin of the egal, after matan Torah, haya kol yachid roi lemishkan hakavod. Every individual was worthy of Hashem dwelling upon them. Kamod tzibor, just like a congregation. B'chol makam asher yazker shemoy, wherever you say Hashem's name. Lo haya din kares biyachid. An individual can never be cut off. Rak acharei ha'egal, after the chet ha'egal, nifsak hamayla min hayachid. This great level was snatched away from the individual, the chazar al atzibur b'chlalam, and it reverted only back to the congregation. And therefore, before the sin of the egel, the whole concept of Pesach Sheni wasn't necessary. Why? Because every individual is like a tzibur. And that means an individual who's tameh is like the whole tzibur who's tameh. And if the whole tzibur is tameh, you could just bring the carbon Pesach on Pesach Rishon. Yeah.
When they bring the Korban Pesach and the guy is coming, can he send his son to do so? To take it for him? The guy, each person has to bring the Korban Pesach by himself?
He doesn't have to bring it, but he has to eat it. He has to eat it. So you could appoint someone to shecht it for you, but you have to eat it yourself. Only you could eat it. No one else could eat it for you. No one else could eat it for you.
So the whole mitzvah Korban Pesach is the eating?
Yeah. But you can't eat it if nobody shechts it. Okay. Let's add one important point. There's a very similar episode to the Karban Pesach by the daughters of Tzlafchad. The daughters of Tzlafchad come to Moshe Rabbeinu and they say, our father passed away and we're his only inheritors, so what's going to happen to his estate? We know the Minat Torah Midoraisa, the women were not given a share in the land of Eretz Yisrael. But they said that means our father's estate is going to go to some other shevet. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, good question, I don't know what to do. Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem, what did Hashem say? Hashem say, these daughters of Tzlafchad have spoken correctly, we're going to give them a share. We're going to give them a share. But in this episode, what happened over here? What happened was, these people who are Tameh, they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, what should we do about the Karban Pesach? We're Tameh, we can't bring it. What did Hashem say? Did Hashem say, yeah, you guys, you could make Pesach Sheni? Hashem didn't say you guys can make Pesach Sheni. Hashem just said, in general, if somebody is Tameh, he should make Pesach Sheni. Why did Hashem not say, you guys over here, you should bring Pesach Sheni? Why didn't Hashem direct his halacha to these individuals who were asking? Why by the daughters of Tzlafchad, he directed the halacha to the daughters of Tzlafchad? Why did he not direct the halacha to these people who were Tameh by Pesach Sheni? So, we know there's a rule today, if you go to Eretz Yisrael, there are many Kohanim that will go to Kivrei Tzadikim. I know a Kohen, a big Talmud Chacham. He will go to the kever of Rachel Imenu. What do you mean? A Kohen is not to make himself impure. There's an idea that tzaddikim are not metame. Why are tzaddikim not metame? Because their bodies are so pure that they don't give off tumah. In fact, the Gemara says the day that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi passed away, the Kohanim went and they were metame to him. Why? He was such a big tzaddik, his body did not give off tumah. Okay. So the Igur Dekala is written by the Bnei Yissaschar. He says, before the sin of the Egal, every Jew's body was completely pure. Every Jew's body was completely pure. It would not be necessary to have a Pesach Sheni, because the body would not give off Tumah. the body of every Jew had so much kedusha, like a tzaddik, a big tzaddik, like Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, like Yosef HaTzaddik. Therefore, these individuals came in the first year that the Jewish people brought the Korban Pesach. Pesach Sheni wasn't necessary. You know why? Because the Jews were on such a high level, their bodies did not give off tumah. It was only after the sin of the Chet HaEgel that the whole concept of tumah was nischadish. So these individuals come to Moshe and they say, Moshe Rabbeinu, what should we do? Remember, who did these individuals become tameh to? Yosef HaTzaddik, right? So they asked Moshe Rabbeinu, should we bring a korban Pesach Sheni? Or maybe Yosef is such a big tzaddik, we don't have to bring a Pesach Sheni. So Moshe says, I'll ask Hashem, what did Hashem say? You're right. You do not have to bring Pesach Sheni. Because you became tameh to Yosef. Yosef is not metameh. Yosef is a tzaddik. Only in general, if a Jew happens to come in contact with a dead body, that dead body will give off tumah, and the din of Pesach Sheni is necessary. Hashem never responded to these individuals who asked, what should we do? We came into contact with a dead body, because these individuals, it wasn't necessary for them to bring Pesach Sheni, because they became tameh from a tzaddik. A tzaddik's not metameh. It was only in general, if a Jew touches a dead body, Hashem had to say the halacha of Pesach Sheni. We'll just do one more thing. If you remember, Mati, you pointed out before at the end of the Haggadah, what do we say? Zeichel lemikdash kihalel. That we eat the korech, and we say, L'kayim ashenemar, what? Al matzah s'morim riachluhu. That you should eat the Korban Pesach with matzah and maror. So if you look in the Haggadah, that pasuk that says Al matzah s'morim riachluhu was said by Pesach Sheni. Why do we quote the pasuk by Pesach Sheni? We should quote the pasuk by Pesach Rishon. The answer is, it's a tefillah. The tefillah is, this year we were not zocheh to bring Pesach Rishon. But we're davening to Hashem, we should be zocheh that the Beis HaMikdash should be built, and we'll have the opportunity, if not Pesach Rishon, to bring Pesach Sheni. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.